Good morning, everyone. Ace Trades here for, what is it, Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Um, Bible says, Psalm 96, verses 4 and 5, For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. So this morning, when you get a big uh, overnight, you're just in a downtrend from the outset. I just put my overnight high up here around the open area and overnight low down here where it's the lowest. But you can see we have this big downtrend. We get a couple little legs. This one doesn't even make a new high, and then we retest the low, and then we try to reverse just how prices typically operate. You can maybe even look at this as like a leg like this, and a little sideways jog here, and then you get a second leg up. Doesn't make the measured move, but then it starts failing back down, and then also on a bigger picture, you could even suspect that maybe this downtrend, when it starts waning here, is on a bigger picture even. You could look at this entire move as the downtrend, and here's your bigger break, and here's another attempt perhaps for a new low. Because when you get a downtrend that's this big, this is a very tiny break, and even though on a smaller picture it does still work out as a break and a retest, you may get a larger break and a retest a little bit later on because of the size of the structure that you're dealing with here. So that's about it for now. Bars are super big today, lots of volatility, already down over 100 points. So we'll see what happens here. Still waiting for the open here. About 7 minutes to go yet. I just wanted to point this out because, just following price action again. See this tight little range we come down into? Notice the breakout. What happens? Breakout fails. Even this tiny little range here, you have all this downward momentum, and maybe even expecting, even from this push, you got all this downward momentum. Prices go into a range. Don't trade the breakout. It's going to fail most of the time, just like here. All right, that's the update for now. I just want to do an update here. I want to show you that. So we're on the 4,000 tick chart right now because it's easier to see bigger structures on the 4,000 tick. And so, when you're up to this higher time frame, it's much easier to see um, the bigger structures and how they may play out. So here's downtrend. Here's a break. Here's your first attempt down. And now this second attempt could come anywhere, but you want to watch for this structure here to make a new high, and a measured move up would take us around the 50% retracement, which is a common area for structures to retrace before they will resume going in the same direction. But depending on how weak this is, this leg may not even make a second move attempt up before it heads down to try again for the new low. But that's what I'd be looking for at the very least, like to get my brain thinking short again. I'd be looking for this trend here that would be ideal for this trend to make a new high, and then maybe we get some more downward momentum. Maybe then you can get um, a more near-term structure on a smaller time frame moving back down, and having that uh, knowledge in your mind that this bigger structure may try again for a new low. And boy, if it makes a measured move up and then heads for a new low, you may get even a second huge leg down here. But we'll just have to watch that. That's just something to watch for to help you in your trading. What bigger structures are doing and how you can use them to your advantage in trading smaller structures. Just a quick update. All right, so we can see we did not get up to this measured move here on this correction. This trend up here, it tried once, twice, and then failed back down. And so you can see how on a bigger picture, This again, I'm looking at the 4,000 tick chart here. It's just easier to describe the price action because of how much volume and how volatile it is today. Um, and then you get this one leg down, two legs down, pushes into the overnight lows. I'm not really thinking short here unless until this unless this would just crash down through here and continue and maybe get a couple tries up that fails because based on the how we understand price action after a downtrend makes a break and gets to a new low, it's going to at least attempt to reverse. So even on a what might look like a nice pattern short, you may get trapped on it because price is trying to reverse, even if it's just temporarily. It's about 10:45. I think when we left off, we were in this area, which is almost an hour ago, and prices had pushed down. I'm back on the 2000 tick chart right now, but you can see the downtrend. Talked about that being first attempt, second attempt, finally pushed down to a new low, and then we started going sideways here because prices were trying to find some sort of bottom. Uh, Usually after they make two attempts and they make a new low, and you see prices start going sideways, they usually will try to reverse. In this case, so when we got this double top here, and then we got this double bottom sort of deal pushed up again, I put a range on here like this, and we ended up breaking out this nice channel. I was looking for two legs back, so we know breakouts fail, but if in the meantime we get a nice setup here, and it looks like the EMA, and we're getting a clean setup down here for this to try to attempt to make a new low, then that's okay. I'm saying I'm buying break or selling breakouts. How people traditionally do is they see the prices start to break out and they'll just sell and try to go with it. That's not what you want to do. But if you get a nice clean trend here, and it looks like that the downward momentum continues to want to hold so that this trend attempts to make a new low, then um, you can go ahead and take that. This lower high right here is way too close to the lows. You can see we don't go very far. I mean, there is probably 5 points here, but it's a bad habit because the only thing that would bail you out here really is volatility. This is a normal market where trading bars aren't so huge. Then sometimes that's going to get you and go against you because we know that once prices make a new low, you never know where it's going to happen. It could just shoot down like this. Um, it just barely makes a new low here, and it tries to fade back up to test this level here, and then we bounce off and go higher, and now we're just kind of chopping sideways. So there's really nothing to do here. This is just messy. Don't get chopped up in this stuff. When I was back in years ago, I'd get so dialed into. I'd zoom this way out and I'd be looking for entries here somewhere. Where can I get in? What does it look like? This is just you take a bigger perspective look at it. It's just very messy. There's nothing clean here. You don't really have any idea where prices are going to go right now. Um, we made this leg up, break, two legs up, new high for this. Try to get into the overnight through the overnight low here again, and is kind of failing off there. So this may just turn out to be too weak to try to push up, and you may just get at some point here get some continued downward momentum. Um, so we'll just wait and see, or you just never know what's going to happen. You just have to follow the price action. All right, here we go with the update. So I think when we left, prices I talked about price just chopping around here, nothing to do, and then we finally get a structure here going. We get this break, one push up, and we get no setup for the second attempt. You just get this ugly, really weak green bar, and then it just launches off of that. So that just happens sometimes. Um, and then we'll just see what happens now. Now we're into a new high for this uptrend, so we got to be careful going along um, right now. You know, so that's about it for now. I mean, it's just pretty clear what we got there. So I'll be back in a little while. Let's do an update here a little after 1 o'clock. So we left off, we said about how this uptrend here didn't give us really anything good to get in on for the new high. Then you can see it tries to reverse. Immediately comes back up here and double tops. Then it's pushing back down. This is a pattern second attempt, but given the context of how you just double topped here, let's spread this out a little bit. I just don't know. It just doesn't look good to me after you just bounce your head off that same area again. So I probably would not take that. I mean, the fact that it wins is irrelevant to me. And then we've basically been going sideways here since about 11:45. So you can see we kind of have this range. Highs were pretty clear. Lows, I put them here. See, at first, I would have had them like this. Even here, I'd still have it like that. And then we poke out again. And, you know, then since we bounced right there, I kind of like that as the support level I want to watch. And here we are poking out again. Um, this move up broke, made a new high, so it may try to fade down here again. Although it is interesting that we tried to push down here and kind of held that level. Um, but anyway, that's about all that's going on. You can see from the timestamps here that the price action's slowing down, how much wider it is over here between 10-minute timestamps and how much narrower it is over here. So we're just in this range right now trying to figure out what price wants to do. All right, just doing a quick update here. Hasn't actually been that long, maybe a half an hour since we updated. I just can't find anything that looks good. This is just moving up in legs. It doesn't, and then when it breaks structure and makes a new high, it barely came down there. It's pushing up again. Even how it went parabolic there a little bit, just pushes down, pushes up again. So I'm just waiting for something to show up. I can't find anything wider even that fits. Um, Nothing here, here. This is just moving up in a way that I can't find any good structures give me that I feel would give me a reliable setup. Um, when we broke out of this trend, we had this little thing here. You zoom into that, or broke when we broke out of that range. We broke out of that range. I had this as a leg, this is a leg. So we tried to push back down in here the range. This is your first clue that um, the range isn't holding anymore, is it can't get back down to the other side. You can see that every time came down, okay, we kind of established a range there. We push back up, push back up, back down, back up to the other side, back down to the other side, back up to the other side. And then once we faded, couldn't get back down to the other side anymore before it pushed up again. Um, if this had given, I might have thought about a short here. If this had given a lower high, um, you can't just short into a measured move, especially when the context is starting to go against you. It's not it's not obeying the range anymore, so you have to be concerned about that. And now we're getting up into what I have here is these broader measured moves are not, they're kind of like just something to keep your eye on. This might not obey this at all. This may just keep running up here. You see how we have this big sharp move up, and then this kind of looks like the biggest correction you get after that move. And so I just put this on here just as something to look at. And, this is prices just want to go higher now. So there's nothing really that you can visually do to find an find an entry right now. It's not doing anything. You can't just, people will FOMO into these trades and they'll just, I'm just gonna buy. I'll just, okay, it just keeps going. I'm just gonna buy the next bar, and then as soon as you do that, it dumps down. You have no idea when it's going to correct. This could go on for 50 more points, or it could be about to just flip around here. This is kind of all played out. All these, it's really hard to do anything because all the rules that you look to follow are, they're all saying that you don't want to try to go long because everything that's all the targets, all the measurements that we're looking at, they're all played out to the upside. And what happens is then this starts to look very bullish, um, and you just kind of, you get, if you're a novice, if you haven't been doing it a while, you just kind of throw all your rules out the window and say, this is just going to keep going up. I'm just gonna buy it, and just I'm gonna put a stop here. I'm gonna put a target up here, and uh, you know, just do that. And you just kind of throw your rules out the window, um, and you can't do that because more often than not, it's gonna bite you. It'll work a couple times, and then you'll just give all your money back. So you just have to continue to follow the rules, follow the structures. Um, if this would continue to do this sort of deal, and we can get like something really clean here that just for some reason just continues to obey a very tight structure, well then maybe you can get a correction off it, okay? But you have to really be certain that price is really established going in that direction, um, and you have a clean structure to trade because you know, you can see it just keeps going up, but I do not have anything I'm confident in buying that's going to hold as an anchor of support from a correction or something. So that's about it for now. I'll be back again later. All right, so we were in this area talking about how I just can't figure out why prices keep going up. I can't find any good structures. Um, then this push down, push back up again into this resistance area, and that's when it finally chopped around, sold off into this leg, pushed back up again, sold off into this leg. I can't take this as a measured move trade. What you'd be looking for, it's not off anything. It's just two legs down, and you never know if this was just, one more last hurrah to push up, and now we're just going to start selling. So this could just tick you in and just keep going down. And at that point, it doesn't look like a measured move anymore. What you'd look for here is you look for a higher low that, that's showing you that prices want to try to come back up here, maybe even to this EMA. And so don't get it. It just bounces back up into the resistance. And so it looks like there's a lot of sellers up here right now. Um, so we'll just see what happens. If this can't get through this level, then eventually it's going to sell off. But sometimes it pushes and pushes and pushes till it gets through, and then it'll maybe push up and come back and then test this level before it keeps going up. But that's all we got right now. There's not a whole lot of clean price action. I don't see anything I would have tried to get in on. Um, you have this move down, so maybe you're starting to think, I'm looking for a short, but you can't take anything here. It doesn't give you any good corrective legs. You just get this one red bar, and then immediately it's going higher. And so I think what people do is they'll look at these entries to the tick, and they'll see one attempt, and then they'll see this bar, and they'll think, oh, second attempt. Um, there's a couple problems with that. You have this short-term trend blocking it, and you're trying to short right into the EMA there. So, you can see you get bounced out of that trade if you took that. Um, and then it pushes up a little bit more and goes right back down again. So I'm just watching these levels, seeing if we can get any structures that develop that we can trade off of. I looked at a bunch of wider stuff. I can't find anything that really looks like it makes sense. So yeah, I just took all that stuff off. I couldn't find anything that looked like it made sense. So we're just into this level here that where prices are struggling. Um, and I mean, sometimes you get these overnight sell-offs um, due to like news that comes out after market, or I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the stuff going on in the Middle East right now. So markets will sell off because they're very thin overnight, and then they'll spend all day just trying to just finding a way to try to get back up to the overnight levels. So I mean, you're pretty much in it's a range day, but it's so large that the structures we're looking at to try to trade, they don't seem to make a lot of sense because the overall price action, I mean, you're looking at 135 point range. That's really big for ES for a day to move up and down in. Um, so it's just sometimes these days where prices move a lot of points is difficult because the little structures you're looking at to try to trade, they sometimes don't seem like they make a lot of sense. Um, and maybe in some strange way, this whole move up, could be looked at as a trend, and then you get one leg, two legs of correction, and so this could just go up here the rest of the time. This could be some sort of strange break for this move up here, but I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that makes sense because of this just stopping apparently in the middle of nowhere with there's no support or resistance or any kind of level here that you would look for prices to just stop there. So this could just be like a two-legged measured break for prices, and now are they may just grind higher in some fashion that you can't figure out any structures and go up here. But we just keep watching it. Well, market's closed now. And didn't get anything again today. So just an ugly kind of day where prices after the morning. You can see this is the entire afternoon here from noon to uh, the close, and really didn't see anything here that you could take with confidence. Um, no corrections. If we're just looking here, we've got prices start going sideways here. We push up, get a new high. Um, don't really like that bar. Not a lot of room to the EMA. It does push down. This pushes up, makes a new high. Nothing here. Get no lower high or anything like that. Pushes back in, then this rips up very steep, makes a new high. This is where I talked about, you just can't really see what prices are doing. Um, I couldn't get a grasp on any clean structures or anything like that. It's just kind of prices are just kind of moving around in swings. Gets kind of congested here, dumps down. Do get these measured legs, but this measured move is not off of anything. This could very easily, just tick a little higher, and you could get a big downtrend here. So just because it looks nice after the fact doesn't mean that's a safe trade to take. Then we push up, get a break. We don't get any kind of setup here or anything. It just pushes higher. Um, with how this has been just continuing to push higher, um, and not really reversing how I might expect. Um, I don't really care to go short there on that, so that doesn't really look good to me. Then we just push down. We don't get anything clean to take. No, not even any setup bars. You end to swing on a green bar, pushes down. By that time, you create a double bottom, and maybe you're even thinking, is this forming some sort of support here? So there's nothing there, and it just kind of chops around, and you just don't get anything. So despite all the price movement today, I don't really see a whole lot that I liked. I mean, this higher low, you can't take that because the whole time this is keeps pushing up, making new highs, you're expecting prices to try to reverse. And so what you'd be expecting here is that this leg would create this move down, would go for a new low. So you could just be buying a higher low into a trap here that just get tick a little tick higher and then it finishes. So that's just just not good, just not good price action today, despite all the volume. So that's about all I have for the day. It's not just wasn't a good day. Couldn't even try to find many structures to try to think about getting a trade off of. Um, yeah, so not gonna belabor the point. I will see you again tomorrow.